Let me just preface this by saying we're not doing the full 5 minutes. Going to do a couple of minutes, not the full 5 minutes.
I want to end today by speaking directly to kids once again. I know many of you are in virtual school.
Directly to kids.
Many of you have made more sacrifices over Christmas, over the holidays, not seeing your friends, not seeing your loved ones, having to hunker down, having to help out around the house as your parents are working virtually. This is not easy. And I know almost half of kids across this country have gotten their vaccine from ages 5 to 12. We need to get more. So please ask your parents if you can get vaccinated. Getting vaccinated protects yourself, protects your family, protects your grandparents, protects vulnerable people, but it also supports our frontline workers who are working.
Marketing directly to children is immoral, if not in certain jurisdictions, actually a prohibited practice. Here you've got the Prime Minister of Canada marketing pharmaceuticals directly to children, bypassing their parents. Government knows best. This is not even as bad as this 5-minute montage highlight that I put together gets.
Working incredibly hard. Our nurses and doctors and people in hospitals who are dealing with a rise in cases. We know, kids across this country, you've been doing the right things over these past long years, and it sucks. But you've been amazing, and we need to keep doing everything we can to get through this.
This is the part. We're going to play this clip, and then we're going to get into today's show, which was a short notice, spur of the moment. I go to Twitter and see that somebody's tagging me and trying to reach me with something that I knew was going on, but didn't fully appreciate the story behind it. Listen to this, people, and wonder how it could ever be that young kids, this is La Semaine de 4 Juillet, the same show where we saw Justin Trudeau in French talking about those misogynist racists taking up space. Do we really want to tolerate them? I'll play that clip again after this. This is the same show. And tell me that this doesn't have a very, very sinister vibe to it. You can all read the captions. Here, listen to this.
Oui, tous les deux, on a une seule dose.
Ah oui? Puis est-ce que vous êtes d'accord, vous autres, avec la vaccination obligatoire?
Oui.
Oui? Ah oui, hein?
Wow. On dirait que je les ai drillés, Julie.
That's their teacher, not their mother.
Oui. Puis qu'est-ce qu'on devrait faire avec les gens qui ne veulent pas se faire vacciner?
On devrait appeler la police.
Oui.
S'ils n'ont pas leur vaccin, ça peut mettre beaucoup de personnes en danger. Comme le gouvernement est en train de faire en ce moment, il faut leur couper petite chose à petite jusqu'à temps qu'ils se tannent et qu'ils se fassent vacciner.
I look at that. It actually makes me sad in my heart to look at that.
I want to end today by speaking to...
It makes me sad in my heart, sick in my stomach to look at a kid. First of all, to look at an adult who thought it was a proper thing to parade out children onto a center stage of a provincial talk show and have them spout off the most hateful vitriol you can possibly call the police on people who don't want to get vaccinated. Cut them. Il faut les couper petit à petit jusqu'à temps qu'ils soumettent. Cut their rights, cut their freedoms, little by little, until they finally submit, until they succumb to the pressure. The children on la Semaine de 4 Juillet, by the way, and if that person looked familiar, if that setup looked familiar, there's a good reason. There's a good reason for it. It's because she had none other than, here, let's bring this one up before we bring in our guest for the day. She had none other than the man of the hour himself, Sir Justin Trudeau, on her show, La Semaine de 4 Juillet.
Pandémie par la vaccination. Puis on en connaît tous des gens qui sont en train d'hésiter un petit peu. On va continuer d'essayer de les convaincre. Mais il y a aussi des gens qui sont farouchement opposés à la vaccination.
Ils sont extrémistes.
Qui ne croient pas dans la science, qui sont souvent misogynes, souvent racistes aussi. C'est un petit groupe, mais qui prend de la place.
Qui prend de la place.
Et là, il faut faire un choix en tant que leader, en tant que pays. Est-ce qu'on
tolère
ces gens-là ou est-ce qu'on dit, voyons, la
voyons
plupart des gens, presque 80% des Québécois ont fait ce qu'il fallait faire, se sont fait vacciner, on veut revenir aux choses qu'on aime faire. C'est pas ces gens-là qui vont nous bloquer. Oui, on va
Est-ce qu'on les tolère? Do we tolerate them? Now, by the way, So this clip was from September 2021 during the federal election. This clip I did not know until speaking very briefly to Marty up north. You may know him on Twitter and YouTube. I didn't know that this video was actually the video that spawned the hashtag, or at the very least, the viral campaign that was born out of one man watching this clip and reliving those emotions and putting a tweet to the Twitterverse about a week ago that itself went viral and that caused a cascading effect of everyday Canadians, black, white, men, women, coming out and saying, I'm a woman, I must be misogynist because Justin Trudeau says so. I'm a black Canadian, I must be racist because I don't want to get vaccinated. And it was one after the other sharing their stories in a tweet, explaining who they are. I think what is the 240 character limit now on Twitter? And one after the other with the hashtag Trudeau must go. And it turned into something of a, I guess what you call it is a social media movement of sorts. Why did Biden declare COVID over? David, I'm going to get to the American stuff after our guest comes on and explains what has happened. And just so everybody knows what I'm doing today. Today I'm going nuts, people. I'm doing the emergency, which I typically do. This is not an ad. There's nothing sponsored about this. I bought all this crap. I'm putting in yerba mate in vitamin C because I think this might make me feel like I'm drinking a Red Bull without the sugar and the toxic crap. But we're going to get to some non-Canadian stuff afterwards. And we're going to get to the story of the man who started this, who's got his own history on the interwebs, his own story as well. Let me see something here, by the way. Just standard disclaimers, no legal advice, no medical advice, no election fortification advice. Super chats, thank you. We are going to move this over to Rumble in a bit exclusively. We're going to start off on both platforms. Ninja Kitty says, possible sidebar guest, mother saves daughter from trans. And how... Send me a link or tag me on Twitter and I'll Google it in any event. I think I'll be able to find it. Okay, people, enough of the intro. Oh, no, sorry. I said I was going to do the article summarizing this for anybody who might not be familiar with it. The Post Millennial put out an article summarizing what has been the news out of Canada. Can you imagine trying to be the leader of a country when trending in that country now is hashtag Trudeau must go? And back in the day, trending in the country where the man is supposed to be leading, hashtag blackface Hitler. I mean, these are actual trending tags of the leader of the country. A man who is incapable of leadership, incompetent, malicious, bad. There's no bad. This man is supposed to be leading a nation that is mocking him publicly and is getting such traction. It's the number one hashtag on Twitter. When you cannot be taken seriously or morally by your nation, you are no longer capable of leading. You are only capable of ruling through an iron fist of sorts. Post Millennial, who wrote this one? Is this Libya? No, Joshua Young. No, is that it? That looks like it. Joshua Young. Hashtag Trudeau must go goes mega viral on Twitter, highlights the diversity of Canadians opposing Trudeau's tyranny. I'm Jenny, a hardworking 44-year-old single mom. Last year, my dad was admitted to a hospital across the country. He was dying. I was not allowed on a plane to go be with him in his final hours. This will make me cry now. To give him a hug and to tell him I love him. Trudeau must go, one woman posted with the hashtag. The hashtag Trudeau must go has gone viral on Twitter as of Sunday with over 400,000 tweets calling for the resignation of Justin Trudeau. Tweets from across the country expressed a wide range of grievances, ranging from vaccine mandates and their associated travel bans to Trudeau's governing policies and views of conservative Canadians. Not of conservative Canadians, of Canadians who don't share his views. The people opposing Trudeau's mandates are not conservative by any... They're not necessarily conservative. I'm a 45-year-old registered nurse who's been taking up space for 20 years in long-term care. Justin Trudeau has already dealt with me and facilitated my abrupt career change. According to Justin Trudeau, I have unacceptable views and must be dealt with. Trudeau must go, wrote a nurse who was fired for not complying with Justin Trudeau's mandates. I'll clip this. I'll clip the link to the article so you can all go read it, and I'll post it in the chat. And it sent that it was hashed. It was trending. The Trudeau must go. It was at 480,000 retweets, and then it somehow fell out of the top 10, and now it's back into the top 10. I don't know how it works. It's possible it was always trending, and there's variation, fluctuations. It's possible, I don't know. The results depend on who's searching. I don't know, but it looks like, and it has been the case historically, sometimes when an unfortunate or an embarrassing hashtag starts trending, Twitter comes in and fixes that. And it looked like maybe at one point in time, they were trying to fix this, and then maybe a bit of the social political blowback has allowed the algorithm to determine it organically, because as of about 20 minutes before this stream, I noticed hashtag Trudeau must go was yet again topping the charts. That's the backdrop, people. This is the link to the story. I'm spitting on my computer when I get angry. And now we're going to have Marty from up north. I know about 2 minutes of conversation with him about him, and whatever I could do by way of due diligence of his social media footprint before bringing him on. So any sleuths out there who's going to go around and find some embarrassing tweet, I don't care right now. Right now, the story of the day is how this hashtag came to be and who the person that originally had the idea to say, I'm just going to address Trudeau directly and tell him what I think and show him who he's saying takes up space, is a misogynist, racist, anti-science, that we tolerate these people? We're going to see him. He looks radical to me, people. He's got a lot of books behind him. He's got a beard, so that's always a.
That's the dead giveaway right there. The beard.
So Marty from up north, I'll post your links afterwards, and people can go check you out. I did a 20-minute due diligence in as much as possible. You got a YouTube channel where it looks like you hike the trails of Alberta and Canada.
Yep.
And other than that, couldn't find any immediate affiliations with nefarious groups. Who are you, for those who don't know who you are?
My life has been out there for anybody to see for 10 years on YouTube. I mean, I'm an Alberta boy, an engineer, 30 years in the oil patch. So I work in the oil patch, had a great career in the oil patch, took me across the whole country and around the world. And then, but I live out in the country, and after busy days, I retreat to my acreage, and then on weekends I take off. I go into the wilderness. So on YouTube, I'm just known as a guy who goes out and does these long hikes. And I always kept YouTube. It's not political. There's nothing political. In fact, on YouTube, you can find me writing one of my most popular videos on YouTube is me plowing my driveway. It got 300,000 views because I'm like, who wants to watch a guy plow the driveway? I guess Americans who don't see snow were fascinated by that. And then I found a voice on Twitter a couple of years ago, and I started going on Twitter. And Twitter for me is YouTube is outdoors. Facebook is family. Everybody's got the Facebook. I got a LinkedIn profile where my professional career can be seen. And then Twitter gives us a voice to do things. And for me, my voice on Twitter was like you. I mean, thank you for having me on the show, because I love, just in your intro, how you can look at a clip and think about it in a critical way and break it down. And that's kind of what I was always doing on Twitter, is helping people break down things and help with their critical thinking, And in the last year and a half, for me, it focused on COVID. When I would see a COVID story and that didn't make sense, and then you see people piling on going like, oh, that's great or that's bad. I'm like, whoa, pause, as a crude example, like, does it make sense that 200,000 people got vaccinated yesterday in Calgary? Like, there's 1 million people who live here. Like, how, think about it. 1 in 5 of us went to get vaccinated yesterday. And I got blasted on Twitter. Like, I've had 2 accounts canceled because I was pushing a little bit too hard against that COVID narrative. But anyway,
hold on. Let me stop you there, because undoubtedly the people who no longer like you or who have discovered that they hate you are going to go search around. What were the tweets that got you booted from your first and second account?
The first one was generally I got reported for spreading misinformation about COVID. Okay. I can't remember the specifics, but something somewhere said, nope, that's, and I was smart to their ploys. Like, anytime I would post information, I was getting raw data from government websites. So whenever I made a graph, I always made sure that I had the citations. And it's like, swear to God, the moment I forgot the citation, boom, you're gone. So that was the first one. The second one was more nefarious. I literally challenged Omar Al-Habra, basically saying, hey, dude, like, when are you going to lift these vaccine restrictions at the airport? Because obviously the vaccine's not doing anything. And then I provided some data, and same thing, I forgot the references and wiped out.
Well,
so
let's
go
say
ahead.
the vaccines are not doing anything. As we've seen from the montage, everyone would like to thank the vaccines for having less severe symptoms the third or fourth time they got COVID. And Omar Al-Ghabra, yeah, I think you poke the wrong bear, and if they can find a reason, they'll find it. But
yeah,
by the way, Marty,
go ahead.
Just explain actually your credentials, and I'm not saying credentials as in to give credibility, but just so people know, what you studied, that you have a functioning brain.
So I studied chemical engineering. So my degree on my wall actually says Bachelor of Applied Science. In Ontario, bilingual, moved to Alberta, been in the oil patch for 35 years. And, I do have a pretty impressive resume. I'm not a moron. So I work for companies like TransCanada Energy. In a sense, I am a sucker for punishment. I worked on Keystone. So you've heard of Keystone XL. Well, I operated Keystone and tried to get Keystone XL built. I worked on Energy East. If anybody's from out east and has ever heard of an oil company called Petrolia, I was the president of an oil company that succeeded in getting frac permits in Quebec, but we got expropriated. So, I have a professional background. I'm semi-retired, and at one point near the end of my career, I actually worked for IBM on artificial intelligence, and doing data analysis is just in my DNA. It's just, critical thinking, data analysis is in my DNA. And
you have 4 kids as well.
I'm married and I have 4 kids, you bet. And 3 of my sons, my daughter is the oldest. She's a hairstylist here in Calgary. And then my 3 sons are following in my footsteps. They're all studying engineering at university. But they're I'm a chemical engineer, and I don't know why, but they all went into mechanical. So, but that's fine.
Traitors, those traitors.
Traitors, yeah. So, and think of my poor wife, Karen. I mean, it makes for some interesting, interesting talks around the table. I'll toot my horn a little bit. I mean, the boys still try to trap dad. They'll come back from a class, and 2 of them are away, but they'll come home for weekends or something like that. And it's like, hey, Dad, do you know what VSRP stands for? And I'm going, yeah, valence shell electron repulsion theory. And then they just go, Christ, the old man's got me again. So, and that'll come. That's a segue, because my memory and what I remember is I can dig in my archives and find stuff pretty quickly. So
yeah. You said you'd been on YouTube for a decade doing stuff that was totally non-political. Marty, I'm noticing a bit of a similarity here. And so it was outdoorsy stuff. And then COVID hit and the world changed.
Yeah. Actually, the world changed for me. The world started changing around 2014, 2015, right? So, and I say this, like, I was a typical Albertan, head down, ass up, working, busy. We were busy. And we were prospering and everything was good. And if somebody told me, hey, Marty, you got extra taxes going out east and you're not getting anything in return for it, I'd be like, I don't care. Wasn't political at all. And then 2015, then there's a slight turn in the oil industry, and then we bring in Alberta Notley, and then we bring in Trudeau, and then for us, to be honest, things got a little bit tough for all of us in general, and for me in particular. And then all of a sudden, it's like the government. It's okay that they were wasting my money, but now they're not wasting my money. I'm turning to them for a little bit of assistance. And then you realize, oh, they're not even helping us. They don't want to help. They want to. And now, not only do they not want to help, but they're actually against me. So I work in the oil patch. So you start to feel kind of attacked if you work in the oil patch. And then bang, COVID comes in. And now there's even, more fighting with the government. I mean, the government's supposed to help me out, but it doesn't even feel like it's helping me at all. It literally feels like it's against me.
And for anybody who's watching that might not fully appreciate what you're describing right now, when you say you live out west, you're sending money and it's going out east, you're talking about the equalization payments, the type of
Whether it's equalization or whether it's taxes. I mean, I'm making more money than the average person, and I'm paying a high tax rate, and sure, some of it is wasted. But that's the typical. I'm a typical Albertan. It's like, well, whatever. If somebody's profiting, or not profiting, but it's helping more than it's hurting. So hopefully, but you start to wake up. I mean, the money is literally being wasted. Now you get upset about that, but then you get upset when you ask for help and you don't get help, and then you get upset when they start to pile up against you, which brings up to where I'm at this point, which is, the tweet that I sent out almost didn't happen. So last week, the tweet prior to that one was probably this time a week ago, or, and I said, hey, folks, goodbye. I'm on my way to the mountains for the next, 4 days, which because on Twitter, I am trying to get, I'm like I said, I'm known as the COVID guy, so I'm getting past that. And now it's like, what do I tweet about? So if you look at my tweets recently, they're a little bit more boring. They're a little more political. I'm paying attention to Poiliev. I'm whatever, but I'm not very active on Twitter. And I send a tweet. I'm going out to the mountains to go hike. Weather turns really ugly, smoke in the mountains. So I turn around, I come back home, and sitting like this, having my morning coffee on Tuesday last week, and I'm in a bit of a debate with somebody over minority rights and stuff like that. And as I'm debating, I'm like, I remember a video that you need to see, which is the one you showed of Trudeau being interviewed in French. And I'm trying to use that in my little debate on Twitter. And then I realized that the version that I'd picked had no English captions on it. So, I should have looked further because there's plenty with English captions. But, je parle français, c'est ma langue natale. Donc, j'ai décidé de faire une traduction. So I decided to put my own translation on there. And you know what, like me, when you're a critical thinker, when you put thoughts to paper and you're reading it, it does something different. So I'd heard that video a bunch of times, right? I'd heard it, seen it, forgotten about it, brought it back up, put the captions on there. And as I'm putting the captions and I'm reading the words, I'm going, whoa, 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 whoa. He's calling me an anti-science, misogynistic, racist person. He goes further to question, do we tolerate them? He doesn't answer the question. And then he goes further and says, but you guys in Quebec, the 80% that took the vaccines, you did the right thing. So, and as I'm reading it, I'm like, I can take it apart in so many ways, right? You're stereotyping, which is bigotry, which can lead to discrimination. Oh yeah, you did do the discrimination. You're pitting a group against another. You're attacking minorities. And I was like, so I wrote that post. I just wanted him to know who I am. And if you look at my Twitter, I rarely use a hashtag, and I start typing, it was like I was addressing that to Trudeau, to him personally. I wanted him to see who I am. And, whatever. I sent it out, and then probably went and mowed my lawn after that, and then come back, 2 hours later, and I'm like, holy smokes, like 1,000 likes, 2,000 likes. I mean, and at that point, my Twitter account had 8,000, 10,000 followers. Like it just, so I'm just Joe Schmuck who sent, actually I got the toque right here. It's an older picture, by the way, it's just,
well, I like the picture. It has that border. I forget what app. Oh no, the Instagram, like a Nashville sort of border.
But
and I'll read it for this, when this goes on podcast format, so people know what the tweet says. It says, at Marty up north _2. I'm a 55-year-old Canadian. I'm married, father to 4, university educated, and perfectly bilingual. I'm an engineer solving problems for 35 years. I'm a volunteer hockey coach and an avid outdoorsman. According to Trudeau, I'm an extremist who needs to be dealt with. Hashtag Trudeau must go.
Yeah. And
go for it. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you almost like, where do you, like, so I wasn't raging, but I was like I'm getting over the, I'm being pushed hard. And I'll admit this, like since talking to people, I realized that I actually made it through COVID unscathed. It hurt me and my family, but when I hear some of the other stories, I mean, man, I consider myself blessed, because some people have had horrible stories that have come out as I've talked to people just in the last 4 days alone. You know, that you said I look bliss in there. It's a bit of an older picture. It's about 2 years old, and it's a self-portrait at the end of a 190-kilometer hike. So I am bliss. And in that moment, I am bliss, you know. And then you come back to this reality that we're in. But then what's interesting is I start to trend, and I'm new to this, right? It goes viral. But the next story of this is the attack, is the instantaneous attack by Dean Blundell. And and Dean, I kind of expect. I mean, I actually follow him. You know, he's a shock jock, sure. And Gerald Butts, and I'm not surprised. And so, you know, and I don't know if you can find that one quickly, but Butts, you know, basically says it's a conspiracy. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I grabbed the camera a second time, this time, and I point it to myself, and I just go walk in my yard. And I'm walking in my yard, and I'm like, hey, Gerald, like, if you think I'm a Russian operative, like, this is me in my backyard, dude. And then here's my Twitter feed, or here's my YouTube channel. Check whatever you want, you know?
Let me see. I've got the response to your post. Now, let me just see if I can see. This is your post, but I don't see Gerald Butts's
right there.
tweet. I don't doubt Marty is real. I don't doubt that he believes he started this thing, which started in the US days before he thinks he started it. Sadly, he's being used by whom? Hold on. Who's Gerald Butts? Skeptical optimist. You sound like he's being used by whom? You don't sound like a skeptical optimist. You sound like the conspiracy theorist that you accuse others of being.
It's even better than that. But yeah, and you're being facetious, right? You know who Gerald Butts is.
No. I'm telling you, I'm not sure I know who Gerald Butts is.
Oh boy, you need to know who Gerald Butts is. He helped. He was the best man at Trudeau's wedding.
Okay, fine. Well, I know. I think I've seen the picture.
He's advisor to Trudeau at first. He's been disgraced during the SNC Lavalin, but he's still behind the scenes. He's the man who helped Trudeau raise $40 million for the election. So he's the cleanup guy. He's the guy who's been sent now because this is going viral. So somebody's like, Gerald, you better go and start dealing with this. So when we're gonna talk about the disappearance of the thread and all these other things, it's like there's no coincidence anymore. Nothing. I'll tell you funny stories about that.
But Marty, the first tweet that he put out was not this one. It was another one that said you're a bot, or was it this one?
No, he put one out that I'm a bot. So that's why I respond. I don't know where you can find that one, but I have to find it. You know, he immediately said, hey, I've seen this trend online of Trudeau must go. And obviously there's bots at work.
I love
so
this.
Then,
who is this now?
That's the one. That's the one.
This one right here.
Yeah.
The real question is, who is paying for this campaign?
And then he's got this fake account underneath there of somebody claiming that there's a form letter that we use or I used, and that it got started in the US.
Do you know what the amazing thing is? Because look, this is when people get traumatized by real events, and then they see conspiracy theory everywhere. I literally just read an article yesterday in Newsweek about this. I'm an honest citizen. Go Joe Biden, and it's like it's the same cut and paste on a variety of accounts, but they're clearly not legitimate accounts. Like, they don't have any history.
Sure.
They're called gibberish. And so they take that bot farming concept and then apply it everywhere, even if it's to a real individual human who has 10 years of social media history that anybody could have looked up on their own had they taken 30 seconds to do it. But then when they find out you're real, then they have to say you're being used by someone. Another conspiracy theory.
And full disclosure, like, you know, the format of the tweet is not entirely original. So sure, you know, I'm on social media, so you see pictures of that style, so it's in your mind, right? So it's kind of in my mind. So when I'm saying, hey, this is who I am, in fact, I was trying to go through, because I'm pretty sure on one of my blasted account I had said something similar in the past that didn't gain traction. But you know, it sure, is the idea original? No, it's not original. You know, it's me turning my face to the prime minister and saying, hey, this is who I am that you're attacking. That's definitely not original. But you know, and I'm pretty sure we dispelled that myth that there was bots pretty quickly. And yes, he comes over the top. And Blundell was hilarious. Like, Blundell used everything at his disposal, you know.
I don't even want to give Blundell more attention than
let's not.
Because I've had my run in, and I realize like you give everyone a chance, and then you realize they're just bad faith actors, and then there's no point interacting again. And it had to do with him accusing Pierre Poilievre of being alt-white, and then it led to an interesting discussion. Done.
Totally. Yeah.
So no more attention. But so Gerald says you're a bot. It's a bot farm. Oh no, I don't doubt you're real when he finds out you're real. But now you're being used. Are you Mossad, Marty? That's a joke. Okay, sorry. That was
no. And I was literally gonna I wish I could turn the camera around. I was gonna walk around. I mean, my office behind me is a mess. I live on an acreage. I got weeds growing everywhere because I just don't even take I take good care of my acreage. But I'm like, man, if I'm the operative, like, wow, that's hilarious. But I think we got past that story. And so the two things I want to talk about. I mean, then. Nobody, I was still, so I'm new to this, but I was still surprised. Nobody, well, actually, I need to talk about Dean just a quick.
Go for it. I'm being tongue in cheek.
Yeah, without using it. So he does this podcast and he's got his two guests. So when you look at his podcast, Dean's trying to stick to his narrative, trying to win the argument that we're bots. So he reads some of the tweets and he purposely picks the absolute worst ones, the ones with 3 followers. Okay, sure. There's probably some people like that. And then over his shoulders, he's got the other 2 co-hosts and they're laughing along. But then you can see one of his co-hosts kind of like looking down at his phone, scrolling, going, oh, shit. Like, wow, there's thousands of these people doing this. Like, and I'm going to make a fool of myself if I stick with this argument. So I got past that argument. I mean, what I want to talk about quickly is that this is a big story. This is an actual story of people that are.
Oh, hold on. Yeah. Marty, sorry, yeah. I was about to let this go, but then I found this tweet. We'll do this and then we'll let it go. Let's recap this hashtag Trudeau must go thing. A few hundred Twitter accounts, trolls, bots, misinformed people spend their entire weekend trying to convince me that they were real and the Nuremberg trials are coming. Well, nobody's trying to do the and part of that, Dean. So that's how you make a true statement false, by adding something false with a conjunction, and therefore it becomes a false statement. No, they're real, and that's what they're trying to convince you of, and they are. Who owns who? I don't even know what that question means. A few hundred. Let me just go back. I think at last check, where I posted the update, is this my account?
Oh, it's over 500,000.
It's over 500,000?
If you just type if you just hit on the Trudeau must go and just scroll down, and the other interesting thing about, we can talk about the suppression, but one of the fascinating things was that, sure, we live in echo chambers. I mean, if you're following Marty, you probably tend to have conservative values and like the outdoors or whatever. And so I know that my feed is only getting similar minded people. And so I'm seeing that the likes and the retweets and the people posting their pictures, but then it got so big that all of a sudden I'm seeing people that I normally wouldn't see. Now I'm seeing the single moms, the nurses, the people from whatever, First Nations or whatever, people who might not have followed me. There's so much of it on the internet now that it's just overwhelming. And the message that's being, how this resonated with people, it's overwhelming. And that's the story that we don't want to lose track of. So that now I realize that Gerald and the others, it's a distraction. And the story is simply that Canadians are fed up. They're fed up.
It's an amazing thing. I also discovered people who I've never seen before through this hashtag. And what's amazing is like, I don't like the, identity politics aspect of this. It's not because I'm Jewish that I think my opinions on any matters that are Jewish are more or less valuable than others. It's not, I don't like looking at a Canadian and saying, oh, I saw a Black Canadian tweet this out, but I saw Canadians of all races, genders, everything, creeds, tweeting this. And these are the people that Justin Trudeau literally said are racist, misogynist, don't trust science, extremists. And these are not extremists. These are people, some of whom are new Canadians.
And that was one of the other funny ones. I can't remember. Is a so-called journalist. I think it's David Moore or somebody like that. And same thing. He's like, for all you guys that are taking offense at Trudeau's words, well, then you're obviously those things. And I'm like, my God, like the mental gymnastics that you did. I just called you. If I call you a big crybaby and you say, no, I'm not a crybaby. Oh, well, you just made my point because you're a crybaby. So if you're a racist, no, I'm not. Well, then why are you offended if I call you a racist? I'm like, wow, the mental gymnastics that guy did to defend Trudeau was ridiculous.
Trying to find the my brother did one. I mean, this is how I know that they're real people. And the reason why it took off so much, it's sort of like, you know, the
Trudeau's
ice bucket.
brother did one.
No,
Kyle
bots.
did one.
They're bought. They're being paid by people to embarrass Trudeau. It couldn't just be that people are fed up. But it's like this hashtag has all the hallmarks of what makes something a successful viral campaign. You know, the ice bucket challenge was so good because it allowed people to share themselves, show that they have, I'll call it courage for lack of a better word, share something personal about themselves in a creative way. This was allowed people to share who they were, and people who for the last 2 years have been suppressed into silence, have been intimidated into submission, and they get to humanize themselves to a government that has dehumanized them.
It brought out bots in a weird way, because there's a noticeable trend apparently of Canadians creating Twitter accounts just so they could do this.
I wouldn't call those bots. I mean,
no, they're not bots. Exactly. It's like,
I see what you're saying.
We've given a voice to people. I mean, I see people making posts saying, I've always been shy. I would never put my picture online, blah, blah, blah. And now people go, here's my picture. I'm like, wow, amazing. You know?
So the amazing thing is it goes viral. I did not know it started with your tweet, but apparently people do, and then immediately go after you.
Oh yeah.
Before
we go into but I want to talk about the you know, I don't want to talk about conspiracies, because I hate talking about conspiracies, because as an engineer, you know, managing a project is hard enough, and a conspiracy would require so much energy. But the first, you know, one of the first guys who comes after me is Gerald Butts, and then he goes radio silent. And then shortly after that, you see the Trudeau must go hashtag sort of disappear. It's no longer trending.
Let me stop you there, because I feel crazy, because I double check and triple check my homework before putting it out. I saw Trudeau must go was trending because I changed the settings on my phone to see what's trending in Canada. It's there. 2 days later, it's gone. Number 9 is Trudeau has to go, making its way up. And then a day and a half later or a day later, it's back to number 1. Do you know it? I mean, look.
Or the algorithm would force you, if you tried to retweet and you go, Trudeau must go, it would finish on. Trudeau must go on. I'm like, oh God, backspace. And then, so they were doing, you know, and then there's the guys who hijacked the I'm with Trudeau. That's hilarious, because now they created false identities, or real identities, but took false pictures, you know, Omar Khadr, and saying, I'm with Trudeau, I stand with Trudeau because, and they flipped it. So then
it's fantastic. The internet is a fantastic, funny thing great. Sometimes.
Yeah.
But you get people coming after you. Ironic that Gerald Butts and Dean Blundell are now on the same team here, so to speak. Does the media reach out to you to hear your story, or do they radio silence from CBC?
Oh, total radio silence. And then, you know, I've had a couple of podcasts, like independents are reaching out. Very, very small independents are reaching out. I've had groups call me and ask me if I would sit in on a Zoom call just to talk to people. Like I got a group from Northern Ontario. It's like a business association of people very hard impacted by Trudeau's and Ford's policies. And people that are on the edge of despair kind of thing. And they literally, to be told that I'm a voice that's re-given them a bit of hope is insane, you know? And so they just want me to talk to them. I don't want to be the face of this, or it's not what I set out to do. But then I thought about it, as the days have progressed, I realized we're all in a movement. If you're against these things, you're in the movement no matter what. And I always said that I had to do my little bit to fight back, whether it's voting or whether it's doing this. And now I'm kind of like, okay, I got to do a bigger part, and I'll do a bigger part. Like but the media, you're now I call you the next tranche, you know, you're independent and pretty big, but CBC, CTV, Global, nobody like that. Nobody.
What has been the last week? What's it been like for you? I mean, you've never trended. You've never had an experience like this, I presume. what's been like, and what are you going to do now, like as of tomorrow?
So I'm doing these. I'm doing a bunch of these now. Actually, I think maybe the fact that it was a long weekend and the Queen's funeral is today had an impact. I think maybe now everybody's getting back to work, and I might get some calls. I don't know. I got a couple of calls, couple of requests for more independent, independent media. The Western Standard here in Alberta. I'm going to go sit in their studio and talk, but actually, pragmatically speaking, I'm heading up north on Thursday to go hunting for 10 days. I'll be in the bush and I'm totally unavailable. So somebody's going to have to pick up the reins while I'm gone.
Fantastic. But someone just posted a super chat. I'm going to read it, and it's beyond upsetting. Is Ellis David? My daughter committed suicide on the 12th. She was only 14. This is the result of COVID lockdowns and our failing healthcare of Canada. Trudeau must go, and so #Trudeau must go, and so do the rest. They cost me my baby.
That's terrible.
This is no, and it's
that I've heard so many stories like that in the last week. So when you say, what has it done to me? I mean, I'm pretty grounded. I can go in my backyard and I'm pretty grounded, but there's been some pretty tough emotional moments as you read some of those. The other thing is I've been asked to pop in on a lot of Twitter spaces and talk and listen and stuff like that. And I like, it's weird to have people say I'm giving them hope. And I'm like, oh God, I'm at a bit of a loss for word for that. I am. And that's why I so appreciate being on here. Like, it was kind of I was trying to reach out. I mean, it was weird, right? Because people said, like, you got to get more out there. You got to get out there. This has to get out there. We can't keep this out there.
It's Marty. When I was documenting the protests in Ottawa, and I interviewed the lady whose 2 kids died from overdoses during the pandemic, and she was, she just needed to speak to somebody. She needed to speak to the world. Justin Trudeau and the rest, Jagmeet Singh, who they want to call everybody under the sun the names that they want to call them if they don't like them, doesn't come down and listen to this woman who told me her kids were addicts, had their lives under control, they were doing well, and then everything turns to shit, and people relapse into the bad habits that ultimately cost both of her kids their lives within short order. And you got Justin Trudeau going on la semaine de 4 juillet. It is the insult to the injury. It is the dehumanizing. It's the dehumanizing rhetoric after you've been degraded already for 2 years. And people want to talk now.
Sorry, but you're making me think of something. And so it's not a movement it's a movement, but there's no leader to the movement. So everybody needs to talk about this. That's all I want to happen now. At this point, I mean, you talk about it, and because you talk about it, somebody else will talk about it, and somebody else will talk about it. And it's not the tweet, it's the emotion, it's the concept, it's the fact that Canadians are tired. We're tired of being divided. We're tired of having a government that seems to be working against us. We should never have a government that questions whether anybody needs to be tolerated. That's not even a question on the table anymore. We need to make people realize that we're going backwards in terrible ways. I mean, democracies are scary, right? Democracies are scary. And for all of their worth, like, we can say they've been around since the Greek. No, modern democracies, Americans, Canadians, European, but they are scary because it's the will of the many. But we put things in place like the Constitution, the Charter of Rights, and other laws to protect the minorities. Because if you're a minority in a democracy, that's scary. And then when Trudeau starts using the kind of language that he's using, like he did in that interview, do we tolerate these people? And that's the other message I'm telling people. Like, what happens when your opinion, because it becomes the minority? Sure, it's easy at this point to say, well, I took the vaccine and you're being stubborn, and so I'm the minority. Sure, but where does it stop? If he goes after old people, or those with kids or without kids, or those, what I mean? So I'm trying to get people to think and to project and to imagine. And that, my God, that seems so hard to do.
No, but and Marty, like, says these people who
you people.
No, when I was in Quebec, when we had the vaccine passports implemented, and I went to a Canadian Tire, and sure enough, there are demographics as to those who are statistically less vaccinated than others, and it's Black Canadians, Indigenous, Latino Canadians. And sure enough, I go to this Canadian Tire, and there's a family, they're a Black family, not allowed into a Canadian Tire. And this guy is saying, do we tolerate these people? I mean, substitute these people for who is actually impacted by this. And he's saying this at the same time that he's apologizing for the atrocities committed by former governments, including his father's government, against the very same people.
But the same people, just, back to your intro, like I was thinking about this when you're talking. Trudeau's popularity dropped briefly when he got that bad haircut. And now it's come back up. It's like, my God, seriously, we're in the country now where you're voting for a guy based on his haircut. You and I are toast, I guess. Well, you got a pretty cool haircut. Mine's pretty typical, but no, it happened by accident, but it didn't happen by accident. I guess some of the things I've been doing have been building up to this, and there's a momentum going, but we just need more dialogue in this country. And then unfortunately you got platforms like Twitter where we're on that are just hammering us, trying to prevent us. And then you got Trudeau talking about a bill like C11 or whichever.
No, on the verge of passing. Bill C11.
Totally. Now you see why, right? And should we be panicked? Should you and I be panicked? Absolutely. Yeah, now I'm getting mad thinking about this. Okay, happy thoughts. It's in the room,
Happy thoughts. Well, you'll be up in the mountains, and I mean, at least there's no politicians there to ruin that yet. Marty, before we go, is there anything that you want to mention that I have not yet asked you? You got the hate from them. Well, no, the funny thing is, I wouldn't suggest you go on Dean Blundell's show, but it's funny that he would sooner make fun of you than invite you. But that's the way it goes.
Oh, you missed an opportunity, as far as I'm concerned.
It's. I don't understand. I
told him that. I said, you could have been an ally, dude. You could have been an ally and legitimately get some great followers and some great traction, or you can do your garbage stuff and do whatever you want. I blocked him under the advice of a lot of people. I just blocked him.
Where can people find you, and not just your political stuff, because your YouTube channel's kind of awesome?
Well, it's just called Marty Up North. I mean, I like talking about that. Let's finish on a happy thought. Marty Up North, the YouTube channel has been a great social media, but that one in particular has been a great adventure for me. I mean, I met people online through Marty Up North on YouTube, but I met people in real life. And I got to tell you a quick story. So I used to do an annual contest and invite people to make submissions, and then they come to go hiking with me. And then a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I did the contest, and the winner was an American named Eric, and Eric is coming up to Canada. And I just do a quick live stream saying, I'm on my way to pick up Eric, and then we're going hiking. And then just out of the blue, I get a text, and it's a guy at a restaurant in Calgary named Evan Robertson. And Evan says, you don't know me, but I'm the chef at this restaurant. And if it's not too late, why don't you and Eric swing by and I'll cook you dinner? And the moral of my story is that a lot of times people are faced with an opportunity or something and fail to grasp it, or don't want to grasp it because it's easy to say no. I could have easily said, no, I'm not going. But I'm going, right? So I go visit Evan at his restaurant. We sit down, and Evan comes and sits at the table with us, feeds us, and we hit it off. And he tells me his idea. I'd like to go hiking with you. And I'd like to, I see how you eat on the trails. You're eating freaking hot dogs and mashed potatoes, and I think we could do better than that. And I'm telling him, Evan, when I'm hiking, it's not about the food. But anyways, I go on my hike with Eric, come back, and I go on a hike with Evan, and Evan cooks a backcountry meal that's like $1 million meal, and it sparks a friendship. And me and Evan, after that, went on literally hundreds of nights out in the wilderness hiking. And every meal was a gourmet experience in an incredible setting. And he pushed the boundaries and the limits. Anyways, I'm in a happy place. So, so social media can have a crazy positive impact on people's lives. And if you're presented with an opportunity, try to recognize when that opportunity is there and grab it, because it's easy to say no, but grab those opportunities.
Fantastic. I'm going to pin all of your links in the pinned comment here and on Rumble. But Marty, Thank you. And the funny thing, I'm happy this opportunity came up and we made it happen like on an hour's notice. I'm driving with my wife. I get a couple of text messages from some trusted people. I was like, holy crab apples, let me do some DD and let's get this done. This was phenomenal.
I'd love to come back any day, talk about any subject you want to talk about. I mean, politics, outdoors, adventure, anything. I'm pretty versatile when it comes to that.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, I say enjoy what has begun as you as the catalyst, and it should go somewhere. I mean, this is trending in the worst possible way. I mean, I like this trend a little more than the hashtag blackface Hitler, just because this is one I can actually use without. I didn't use the other one. I used the other one, but only ironically or to reference it. Trudeau must go. I can actually use and not feel guilty about it. And the bottom line, you've tapped into something that's of national interest and that reflects a sentiment across the nation. So I say you should feel proud, but you should just harness the moment. It's amazing.
I'm happy, and thanks for having me on your show, man. I so appreciate it. Thank you so
much. My pleasure. Have a good day. We'll talk soon.
You too. Cheers.
All right. Bye-bye. People, what a weird world it is. I did not know that this was going to be the day when I woke up this morning. I was planning on doing some house cleaning and did. I went out for breakfast with my wife to a bagel shop and we sat down and, a couple eating bagel lox and cream cheese in Florida. It was funny because it's a Monday and it was the whole thing was funny. It doesn't matter. Then the day turned into this and it's phenomenal. I am going to bring it over to Rumble now exclusively, where we're going to talk about some other fun stuff. Speaking of demonizing your adversaries, the new talking point is out for the political left. And I'm calling it the political left because I'm talking about the upper political echelon and not the people. Because it seems that sometimes, there's the expression punching up. It seems that sometimes the politicians like to demonize the people instead of attacking the policymakers. And the new talking point now is that raising your hand to the air, even if it's in prayer, you might just be a Yahtzee. So let's do this right now. We're going to move over. Hold on. I saw someone. Well, I can't say that wasn't the thought I had. We're in Florida. We're having breakfast, bagel lox and cream cheese on a Monday morning. And we're looking around. It's like, these couples around us look very happy. I say to my wife, we're just a few decades. We're just a few decades between us. But it's not just for Jews to retire in Florida either. There's a lot of French Canadians who come down from Quebec. I actually hear a lot of French in Florida, and I love it because it's a good time for me to practice. Here is the link. It's in the pinned comment in the chat. I'll give everyone a couple of seconds to go over there. I didn't want to go over mid-interview because I didn't want to break up the interview. I want to leave the interview intact so that everybody can watch that. Fantastic. And I'll tell you something. I am a little, what's the word? Not gun shy, not traumatized, but I get nervous because you don't know people on social media. And we live in a world now where you take a picture with the wrong person and you support diagolon extremism. I'm joking. But we do live in a world now where everyone is held responsible for any social media post that someone out there might have posted. If they have them on their channel, have a discussion with them, take a picture of them. So I had to do a little homework. I was very satisfied with the homework that I found on Marty's channel. In one of his videos, he talks about drinking out of a creek, a flowing creek up in the clean mountains. He says you're more likely to get sick from the stuff under your nails than from drinking from a water. I'm neurotic. I'm going to filter the water and maybe put an iodine pill in there, even though I know the iodine's not good for your liver, but whatever. I'm neurotic and I have to live with that. Okay, winding it off on YouTube, people, make your way over to the Rumbles in 5, 4, 3,